Hey folks, just a heads up regarding remaining live events for the Spooky Spectacular season. I'll be at Splatterflix at the Carolina Theater of Durham. Charlie will be at the Abbeville Upstate Spirits Conference in Abbeville, South Carolina. And then beyond spooky season, of course, as I keep mentioning and will continue to mention, we'll both be at RetCon in Cary, North Carolina in February of 2023. Also, we've got some pretty cool plans for 2023 live appearances that we're not quite ready to announce just yet, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities to see us in a lot of places.
You are listening to Arcane Carolinas, an exploration of the Carolinas' folklore, legends, myths, and modern weird. Each episode, we examine the historical context of our topic and aim to preserve some of the stories that help make this part of the world such a fascinating place.
This episode was recorded live in front of a large, enthusiastic audience at GalaxyCon Raleigh in July 2022. However, due to the mics we use, you can't really hear the audience. From time to time, I'll drop in and tell you what someone in the audience said when it would be impossible for you to hear them.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's lovely.
Oh, it is. We don't have to yell. And we're recording? We're recording?
We're recording.
And we're recording.
Yeah. I'm going to, just in case, the ultimate backup audio studio is, of course, just your phone. And now that's recording too.
All right. Hello and welcome to Arcane Carolinas. I'm your co-host, Charlie Mushaw.
Hi, I'm your co-host, who finds it increasingly strange to say this in front of people who are not Charlie, multi-award-winning novelist Michael G. Williams.
He actually is.
When I say it to you over Zoom, it's just me, joking around. It's hard to remember that I'm actually saying it to lots of people.
Yes. So we are very happy to be here. Thank you to GalaxyCon for having us. This is super awesome. By show of hands, who has listened to us before? All right. Thank you, folks in the back.
Yes.
All right.
We love y'all.
So let's run through an explanation of who we are, what we do, in the format that you can expect.
Yes. All right.
So our show is all about spooky stories, weird stories, folklore, modern stuff that's just off the beaten path in the Carolinas. That includes paranormal topics, which is why we're on this track.
Yeah, or myths, legends, weird history. We've covered everything from very old, interesting murder cases to the Vampire Beast of Bladenboro to the Brown Mountain Lights to the Devil and Hezekiah Jones.
So the way we normally approach things is we will start with a legend, right? And we'll just tell the legend as it is. And then what we'll do is we'll start combing through the historical record to see if we can verify any of the facts. So if it's like, oh, somebody was murdered in this room and their ghost haunts it. And, it's pretty easy to look up records on that. And then we can say, oh, somebody definitely died there. Yeah, maybe there is a ghost. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Every now and then we find ourselves really surprised by how much folklore is actually just straight up history.
And sometimes we're like, that's a load of crap. Somebody completely made that up to sell T-shirts.
Those are also fun.
Those are also fun, and it doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the story.
No.
So, for today's programming, I'm going to be driving. I did the research, and I picked for the first half of what we're doing today because they gave us a lot of time. I was like, we're going to have to mix it up. So for the first part of what we're doing, I picked 3 Raleigh ghost stories downtown Raleigh ghost stories that if you were so inclined, you could go visit these locations over the course of this weekend if you wanted to and be like, oh, I heard from Arcane Carolinas there's a ghost here. And somebody might be like, get out. But then in other cases, they might be like, yes, come in, please buy something from me.
We do often preface these sorts of stories with, please don't trespass on anybody else's property. That's our good advice. And one more quick explanatory note. Usually whoever is driving prepares all these notes and the person who is not driving has not seen them.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be hearing this for the first time as well.
He's winging it. But you can visit all these sites.
Oh, good.
I did that on purpose.
Oh, nice.
That was part of the whole pitch when they were like, do you want to come to GalaxyCon? I was like, yes, and I'll do things that people can really visit. Instead of being like, don't go there, which sounds like we're saying, like we mean, go there, wink, wink. But
right,
no, you can actually visit these places. It's all fine. And I'll try not to hit the table anymore because I know they're recording.
That's okay.
All right. So our first story comes from 105 West Hargett Street in downtown Raleigh.
Oh, that's like blocks from here.
It is just blocks from here. I went there 2 weeks ago to do a scouting.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
I scouted the site. It is a multi-floor building. The first floor is a restaurant with a catering and event space on the upper levels.
Okay.
So big, tall, 3-story.
Yeah.
Old-timey building. It's the kind of place that takes reservations, so you're probably not getting in if you just walk up unless you're okay with sitting at the bar. They do have a full-service bar. We'll get to the name of it in a little while if there's an empty slot. This location was dubbed the most haunted building in Raleigh by the Triangle Paranormal Society back in 2016.
Oh,
The most.
Is there like a scale?
I don't know how you quantify that,
Like, is
but
it
they
most
said it's the
haunted in
most.
Fahrenheit or most haunted in Celsius?
It's the most haunted on this day at 2:03 p.m. So it was, I don't know how they quantified that.
Okay.
But they declared it the most haunted building. Maybe they took a census of like ghosts. Hello? Whoa.
Despite being like the more occult oriented of the two of us, I am also an engineer by trade. And so I'm kind of like, how did they measure that?
Yeah, I guess we should have clarified that since it is mostly people that have not seen us before.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, we have to do the full intro.
Yeah, it's not that I'm a skeptic. I want to believe, but I buy into a lot less than
He wants to believe. I have decided to believe.
Yeah.
That's the difference between us.
Last week, we were in Winston-Salem for Congregate, which is a science fiction convention. And I think I let some people down. The whole point was Mike will be like, what do you think about this topic? And I'd say yes or no. And yeah.
I believe in a lot more than Charlie does.
I'm not a nihilist. I do believe in things.
You do.
So anyway, most haunted building, not restaurant, in Raleigh. I have a friend who has worked in the Ashley Christensen restaurant group for many, many years. If you're from this area, you know who that is. She's a chef. Is that what you'd call her?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Restaurateur? Both?
Yeah.
So it's an Ashley Christensen restaurant, and this place is part of that network. And my friend that's worked there alluded to me about some funny business there long before we were doing Arcane Carolinas. So I had kind of just like filed it away and been like, maybe we'll get to that, maybe we'll not, until somebody that listens to our show, which is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Samsung Podcasts, Google Play, and anywhere you find your podcasts.
It's like all over the place.
Someone that listens to our show emailed us and was like, hey, I work at this restaurant and I wanted to share my experiences with you.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't see that?
No.
We don't coordinate on who checks what. If you're talking to us on Facebook, it's probably him.
Yeah, it's probably me.
If it's Twitter, it's definitely him.
Yeah, definitely
me. If it's Instagram, it's probably me.
100% you.
And if it's email, I guess it's me, apparently.
Well, I mean, I'm always afraid that I'll mess up something that you're doing.
Yeah, so let's get on with the spooky.
All right.
I feel like we're meeting you all for the first time. And I want you to have the full experience. You are here with us. I made a joke about please don't yell dumb stuff. This is actually meant to be an interactive session. So if you do have questions or comments or whatever, feel free to blurt them out. That was more of a warning that it is being recorded. And if the mic picks it up, you might wind up in a recording.
Yeah.
That said, the story that was shared with us by a listener said that there's not a strict localization of phenomena within this building and that it actually spans every floor. So the odd and unexplained things will happen in every part of the building. You know how normally they're like, oh, there's stuff in the attic, or sometimes things move behind the bar and stuff like that. Like, no, this is every floor of the building, from the basement to the restaurant level to the event space level to the catering level.
Good grief.
Yeah. So one piece of the story, I'm not going to just like read you this multiple paragraph email that was sent to us, but one piece that really stood out to me, I will read that as a quote, so I'm not like projecting my own views on it. The place we stored our plates, glasses, and other serving dishes was a short, deep closet whose shape perfectly matches a crematory furnace. We had lots of problems with shelving falling, dishes breaking, and people accidentally hurting themselves in that closet.
Is there a reason it was the exact size and shape of a crematory furnace?
We will get to that.
Okay.
We're in the legend part.
All right.
That's the history part.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. The details shared from this person's experience, and again, thank you to them for being willing to share, includes additional information about odd occurrences generally happening after closing time, but when there's still 2 to 3 people in the building. Okay. Doing cleanup, reset, as they say. Yeah.
I waited a lot of tables.
Yeah. Hearing voices in the building that don't match the 3 people that are present. Even seeing the apparition of a woman in a light-colored evening gown on a very specific staircase within the building. And that apparition reportedly recurs on that specific staircase.
Interesting. Okay.
Very personal and very spooky experiences were shared. Again, I'm not going to read the entire email, but apparently multiple members of the staff corroborate it and compare notes. And the fact that I had heard about this before that person emailed me and that these two individuals don't know each other, I don't know. I was like, all right, cool. Let me go do our thing where we go to a site and we poke around and we're just like, oh, hey, what's going on here? So I went over there a couple of weeks ago and I could not get in because like I said, it was a tablecloth style restaurant that usually takes reservations, and it was a very fancy affair.
All right.
There was a lot going on that evening and I was like, oh, I'm not going in, but I walked around.
When they say formal wear and you show up in a Ghostbusters outfit, then they're a little distressed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they were, yeah.
You have to incorporate a tie into your Ghostbusters outfit.
You've seen my Ghostbusters outfit. It's good.
I could style a tie for it. That's
screen accurate, except for the pack, because that costs money.
Yeah.
But a flight suit, I can do a flight suit. But thanks to being on a historic registry, information was actually really easy to find out about this location. Like I said, I went down there. Seems like a nice place. There's even a nice little plaque on the outside that gives you some basic history to start from. Generally, we go into land records and newspaper microfiche and other outdated technologies. But no, they had a little plaque to start at, so that was pretty good.
That's handy.
It is known as the H.J. Brown Coffin House building.
Coffin House.
Yes. It was built as the early 20th century headquarters for a local business that had been previously established in 1836, originally as a cabinet shop. So they were woodworkers.
Okay.
And then later, some say during the Spanish flu, they started making coffins.
They got a sideline.
Yes. They were just like, yeah, we can sell a lot more coffins than we can cabinets.
If you time it right, you can sell somebody a cabinet and then eventually sell them a coffin.
You could sell them a cabinet that converts into a coffin.
Oh, man.
Like a transformer cabinet.
Oh, my kingdom for CAD software right this second.
And then, because of all the bodies that were piling up, it became a mortuary.
Wow.
And then it became a full functioning funeral home.
I really see a progression of business ideas here.
Macabre.
Well,
So by the 70s, the company had actually moved out of the building and it turned into a bank.
Oh, okay.
So do you want to guess what the restaurant is? Like who owns it now?
I have no idea.
Death and Taxes.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
So that's the name of the restaurant that's in there now. Death and Taxes. I kept digging, kept reading about, reports coming out of there. And there are a lot of stories on the web. A lot.
Really?
Yes.
This is one of those places where you keep looking and there's too much.
Everybody's got a story about Death and Taxes and the ghosts that live in there. I'm sure that they will all be run again this October. As the news is wont to do. But of particular interest, the specific story about things occurring around the most recent renovations, which lines up with stories that you hear about, like, they disturbed the spirits. So apparently the supernatural activity really kicked off back when the Ashley Christensen group took over the building and began retrofitting it to be a restaurant.
I have a theory, but I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
I should also mention, this is kind of neat. If you're there, it has the oldest operating elevator in the city of Raleigh.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. People say that the elevator acts up. I think that might be because it's old. Don't know that.
It's not because there's some ghost of an elevator operator who really resents having their job taken away.
Right. Okay. It's still there. It still works. But yeah, lots of accounts of people hearing mysterious footsteps, voices. One account published in the Indy said that a contractor's young daughter was visiting the site and she didn't see the woman, but she said she spoke with a nice man and no one else could see this man.
Okay, over and over and over again in ghost stories that we read about or talk about, there's always a story in there somewhere of a child or multiple children having a direct interaction with the ghost and having a conversational interaction.
Yep.
It doesn't appear and throw a plate at them. It appears and has a conversation with them. And I think that's reflective of the fact that children are more open to the world around us.
Yeah.
They haven't had that educated out of them yet.
So tonight, if you're so inclined, this is one that I'm like, another thing that we do, if this is your first time listening to us, we never discount people's experiences, right? We don't claim to hold the answers to the secrets of the universe. If we did, we would not be sitting in the Raleigh Convention Center. We would be doing something with the secrets of the afterlife.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't claim to be the keepers of the secret sauce of knowledge. So on this one, based on the amount of experiences that are reported, my direct connection with someone that reports it that I trust, on this one, I'm going to go, all right, maybe.
Well,
this is a definite maybe for me.
And stop and think, I'm a I'm all in on it, unsurprisingly. Think about the number of people who would have been taken there sort of ahead of their time, especially if when they got into coffin making was the influenza of 1918. And so there are a lot of people there who died earlier than they feel they should have. And then eventually it gets turned into a restaurant, which is
I want a charcuterie plate.
You think about a restaurant, what is a restaurant but like the ultimate celebration of life? It's like the intake of nutrition. It's the intake of what keeps people alive. It's the joy and the social and like convivial nature of being alive and around people. And so, oh man, if I was a ghost in that place and it got turned into a restaurant and I couldn't have the food and I couldn't drink the drink, and I couldn't talk to the people and I couldn't like sit at the bar for too long, I would be so mad.
You're an angry ghost.
I would be an angry ghost in a restaurant, yes.
Angry spoopy.
I wouldn't be mean to the staff though because I waited tables. No way.
Well, these ghosts have no such qualms about hurting people in that closet. Bad ghost. But anyway, yeah, Death and Taxes, downtown Raleigh. If you are so inclined and want to check out what in 2016 some paranormal group called the most haunted building in Raleigh, check it out.
I want there to be a scoreboard for most haunted. I want there to be like, I don't know, something.
So that's the first one that we did.
Okay.
The second one that we're going to do, this is more of a large building than a specific location. And this is on the corner of Tucker and Glenwood Avenue. It is the Pine State Creamery.
Okay.
Do you remember Pine State milk in your school lunches?
No.
The little cartons?
I grew up in the mountains, so we had Biltmore milk.
Okay. Well, in Raleigh, we had Pine State Creamery milk.
There you go.
And we will talk about that.
Okay.
So there's a lot of sensational stories about this particular location. Specifically in the place where there used to be a taco restaurant.
Okay.
Now it's a tiki bar.
That sounds fun.
It's called the Arc Royal Tiki Bar. And these legends started to proliferate in the 2010s. And there were so many wild stories that the bar and its ghost stories were the subject of an episode of some show on country music television.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, they did like the reality TV, like haunted sites of the South. And they covered this taco shop.
Good for them.
Yeah. Numerous local paranormal investigators have gone to the site.
Just for tacos or
no? Yes, just for the taco. No, it's.
I'm thinking because we did an episode about the Grove Park Inn and we found some people who said that they had done an investigation at the Grove Park Inn, but they had just like walked in with their phone and just like walked around the lobby and been like, haha, we're investigating the Grove Park Inn, and then they left. So
Right.
It was really funny. I was just like, I kind of love their moxie.
Yeah. We're investigating. Yeah. So I'm sure that they investigated the tacos as well as the ghosty presence. But yes, if you Google this, you'll find a lot of different paranormal investigators from the Raleigh area talking about this place. The owners really leaned into it. They put a sign up above the entrance that said, "Warning, this place is haunted." And they started naming the dishes spooky names.
Oh, I love them.
Again, that
That's
place
so
is not
fabulous.
that place is not there anymore. Now it's the Royal Arc Tiki Bar or Arc Royal Tiki Bar.
I guess the afterlife theme did not save them.
No, but patrons would reportedly come up with stories for the staff, and they'd be like, "Hey, there's an anomaly in this photograph. Things from orbs, which is probably dust, to shadowy shapes, which is a little spookier for me."
Yeah. Orbs, I'm like, no, that's garbage.
Intermittent electrical problems in the bathrooms were reported.
Sure.
Faucets that would turn themselves on and off.
Okay.
Which my one spooky story, like I said, I want to believe my one spooky story involves a faucet coming on its own accord in this apartment that I lived in.
Yeah.
That had a lot of weird stuff. What episode did we talk about that? I don't know. We talk about it at some point on the show. I won't bore you with it now. So I'm just like, they're speaking my language with that part because I'm like, I have experienced that. That is freaky.
Yeah.
Staff,
there's like a mechanical element there that you've got to do something to make it come on.
Staff would report pots and pans flying off the racks in the kitchen, which I have worked in kitchens, and I feel like that's any kitchen.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not supernatural. That's just kitchen staff being angry.
Right. But they also reported unknown voices, like disembodied voices. One article said that patrons reported getting pinched by unknown entities. I don't have any comments on that. If somebody says they got pinched, I guess they got pinched. Casper the Pinchy Ghost.
Ugh.
I don't know. Local paranormal investigators from 2 different groups have visited the site and even went on the Raleigh ABC affiliate to discuss their electronic voice phenomena findings, EVP.
Yeah.
Saying that they heard a variety of voices, names, questions, and sinister giggles. Sinister Giggles. That is the name of my horrorcore band.
I was going to say, like Sinister Giggles.
Yeah, the Sinister Giggles.
That needs to be like the name of a character or a band or something. A character in a kid's show, maybe? I don't know.
Like they did with Muppet Babies with the Muppets, but if you made like a kid's cartoon of like classic era Misfits where it was like Baby Danzig.
Oh my God.
And you could call it like Sinister Giggles.
Sinister Giggles. Yes, that'd be amazing.
Okay. So what created this hotbed of the paranormal? The source of all this activity, if you asked the owners of the taco place, they would attribute it, and this was repeated a lot by the paranormal investigators in the ABC article, is attributed to a long string of tragedies that occurred at this specific part of the building. 2 large fires broke out when the creamery was a functional creamery, allegedly killing some workers.
Oof.
There was another on-the-job thing where a guy allegedly had a heart attack and was found in the freezer by his coworkers.
Oh, geez.
Shifting gears a little bit, we are not a true crime podcast, and when we talk about actual crimes, we try not to be too celebratory about that because these are crimes with real victims.
Yeah.
But it is also commonly reported that a young woman had been murdered by a serial killer and found near the building in the 90s.
Somebody who lived in Chapel Hill in the 90s, I'm going to raise my eyebrows at that one.
Well,
Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't
you
know.
are going to be wrong.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Let's get to the history. So given these tales, I was like, well, this is pretty believable, right? Let's at least bad vibes.
Sure, bad vibes.
Right?
Yeah,
Like best
great.
case scenario, bad vibes.
Yeah.
The opposite of good vibes. Or does that say good vibes? What does that say? Gong vibe? I'm trying to read that sign.
Oh, I don't know. That says gong vibes.
Okay, not
Yep.
gong vibes, bad vibes.
It's perpendicular to gong vibes.
Exactly. This building is an official city historic landmark. Pine State Creamery's history is extremely easy to research.
Oh.
There is a lot out there. And fire departments keep very accurate records.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So do police departments.
Yeah.
So do, obituaries.
Yeah. Newspapers, things like that.
Yep. So we'll talk about the creamery. It was formed as part of a program led by the State College Agriculture Extension.
Yeah.
Which encouraged the establishment of dairy co-ops after World War I.
Oh, okay. So NC State.
Yes. So Raleigh kind of grew and developed alongside of the creamery, and it was like a big force for employment, which after being established, it created 400 jobs and produced 9.4 million gallons of milk annually at its peak.
Jeez.
It supplied half the state school system's cafeteria milk, which I distinctly remember it, which I'm just like, oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Little
Yeah.
cartons.
Nah, we had the Biltmore truck that came in from Asheville every...
Did yours have a little raccoon on the side? Or be like, drink milk, kids.
No.
Ours had a wreck.
Ours had a picture of the Biltmore house.
Did it have a coupon on the other side for $5 off the Christmas tour?
No, they don't give discounts.
They didn't get to be the Biltmore estate by giving discounts.
You don't become a Vanderbilt by discounts.
So things chugged along for decades, and it was like a real pillar of the community. And all things dairy were produced here, not just milk. They did like butter and ice cream, and
Sure,
like,
yeah.
if it comes from dairy, they made it. And as reported in the Dispatch on December 17th, 1991,
Oh, okay. I wasn't here yet.
creamery officials pled guilty to felony charges in a statewide bid rigging scheme,
Oh.
in which the creamery had overcharged school districts, which then passed on those increased prices to children, costing hundreds of thousands of school children extra milk money throughout the 1980s.
Wow. Literally, they stole milk money.
Literally stole milk money from children.
I mean, that's awful, but it's also hilarious.
It is.
Oh, my God.
So,
It's like people are so craven.
so this is the beginning of the of the downward trajectory for the Pine State Creamery. So the company,
In the film of the Pine State Creamery saga, that's when the newspapers spiral in.
yeah, it's like
okay. Milk money
It's
scandal.
not a happy montage.
Okay. Yeah. Milk money scandal takes down Creamery.
Sad montage. Well, I guess it would be happy if you were the prosecutor.
Sure.
Yeah, anyway, they did. I'm glad they got caught because they stole nickels from me as a child. So Pine State got hit with fines and restitution and eventually had to fold under bankruptcy in the mid-90s, which is completely wild to think about. Like, It was this huge pillar of the community. And like, how much could they really have been squeezing out of people?
Enough to get noticed.
It was a quarter, man. Like the cartons were a quarter. Should they have been a dime? Should they have been 15 cents?
It's probably more convenient to carry a quarter around.
I don't know. But as discussed earlier, the building has been converted into other stuff. It's an office complex that also houses some restaurants. It has a 20-foot tall cement butter churn on its roof. That's pretty cool that you can see. That was part of the 1998 rebuilding of the building. So it closes in like mid-90s, like we'll say 95, right? And then they're like, well, we got to convert this into something because now we have this massive facility. So
enough time had passed that it was safe to associate it with dairy again.
Yes.
Okay.
So they put a butter churn on it so that as a historic landmark, people would know like what it had been.
Right. Okay.
Preserving its felonious heritage.
I mean, we've got a building with a giant light up bowl on the side of it in downtown Durham, and everybody's just like, that's probably about tobacco, but let's just not think about that.
Mm-hmm. So, the tragedies.
Tragedies.
It's tragic that I overpaid for milk as a child.
Okay.
But that is not tragic enough to keep spirits from passing over. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's enough to make me grumpy.
Okay.
Right now, in this moment, that I will forget about it by an hour from now. So anyway, there were definitely 2 big fires at the creamery.
Oh, okay.
Raleigh Fire Department records confirm that. They keep, it's almost like, you want to talk about high score lists? They basically keep a high score list of their fires where it's just like, this many 3-alarm fires, this many 4-alarm fires, whatever. So it was super easy to find these fires. Here's the thing. Nobody died in those fires.
Oh,
Not
yay,
right.
I mean, yay.
So nobody died in the fires, right? Which is good for people, but bad for the ghost business. Similarly, I could not corroborate the heart attack victim in the freezer story. I'm willing to, like, I did search local paper archives by the address and like by Pine State Creamery and death and, heart attack and all that. Couldn't find it. That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, especially if a death was not recorded in that place, but instead at a hospital.
Right. Maybe he was pronounced somewhere else.
Yeah.
I couldn't find anything. That doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I couldn't find anything, which brings us to the serial killer.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true.
Oh.
Yeah. This is me putting my serious face on. No jokes now. The Glenwood South area of Raleigh did have a serial killer that targeted vulnerable women on the street in the mid to late 90s.
Oh.
Yep.
I've never heard this in my life.
Well, he's in jail now. He had multiple victims, one of which was found in a loading bay at the then vacant creamery. So between the time that it went bankrupt and they evacuated the building and it had been rebuilt, this guy was out there killing people in this part of town, and they found one of his victims in the loading bay. Not in the building, but in a loading bay. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Her name was Deborah Elliott. Mm-hmm. I'm going to skip details because we're not a true crime podcast, but it was one victim.
Okay.
It wasn't 2, wasn't multiple that were found there. It was one.
Just one.
Just one. And the thing is, nothing about the reported phenomena strikes me as something that ghosts, spirits, whatever, lost souls, whatever word you use in your vernacular to describe what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't see playfully pinching patrons as something that this person would have, if it's this person.
It would be tough for me to come up with a narrative explanation.
Right.
And I'm a writer.
Right. So playfully messing with revelers, communicating using multiple voices. Sinister giggles. Come on down to the Chuckle Hut. We got sinister giggles. So I don't know. On this one, I think, that's the thing with the unexplained. It's unexplained.
Yeah.
Could it be haunted? Did the paranormal investigators just feel gas?
Right.
When they were like, I sense something. It's the tacos.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities there is what I'm saying.
This to me, because these stories didn't start happening until the taco place was in there.
Right.
And they had a sign and they named the food that and they pitched it to TV. They sold T-shirts.
This is marketing.
This is marketing for me.
Yeah. I'm going to discount that one.
Yeah. And regardless of your take on this one, if you want to go check it out, Pine State Creamery building, there's a tiki bar. You can check out that spot where the previous owners claimed it was super duper haunted.
Sure. It would be interesting to go ask the current owners whether it is, in fact.
It would. There's actually a paranormal investigator / medium that posted on their personal site that they went there under the new owners.
Okay.
They experienced and felt nothing.
Oh, well, there you go.
I mean, again, we're not talking about an exact science here.
Yeah, there's one subjective experience.
Right. But I hear it's really nice. If you want to check it out, what did I say the name of the place was? Arc Royal Tiki Bar, very close to here. Could be haunted. I don't know. I'm not buying that one. I got one, I'm in. I got one I could maybe, I don't know, but I'm not super in.
Even I'm not in, and I really want to believe.
Okay. Which brings us to... Okay, let's take a pause. We got plenty of time. We're doing all right.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? No is an acceptable answer. You, sir. I did not go to that one.
For the microphones, I will say that his question was, did you go to the Tiki Bar and check it out?
And the answer was no.
Okay.
That tells you how much I believed in that one.
But you did try to go to Death and Taxes.
I did.
Okay, yeah.
You said that.
The question being, how long does it take us to find enough for an episode?
I worked on this one for probably 8 hours.
It really depends.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go to the state library, which is like a few blocks from here, the State Government and Heritage Library. They have a ton of really cool historical stuff there. And by virtue of getting a card there, you get access to a bunch of newspaper databases. So public library is super awesome. That's our favorite.
And they'll
resource.
digitize stuff for you.
And they'll digitize stuff for you. There was like a rare book of South Carolina legends that I needed for an episode. And so they had a copy. So I went and looked at it, and then I asked them if they would digitize it. And then they did. They have a grant that like funds paying somebody to stand there and scan everything in. But I would guess for the average episode, I'm probably clocking 5 or 6 hours. But some of them, it's as much as 10 or 20. You never know. We just did a 2-part episode about the Lost Colony and what we think actually happened to them. And there's a ton of really fascinating archaeological work being done about the Lost Colony, like right this second. There are people at multiple sites on the coast right now working. They constantly are making new discoveries, and the like evidence-supported version of what probably happened to them is constantly evolving and growing. And that one, I probably spent 100 hours researching that.
No, that was a good one, though.
Yeah.
Not as good as www.arcanecarolinas.com. Where you can get
That is also marketing.
where you can get a link to all of our episodes, as well as our merch store and social media pages.
Yeah.
Please like and subscribe. I see a hand all the way in the back.
So, about the area.
Yeah.
But why?
So the question was, the question is about the Roanoke episode. I'm going to answer it very briefly, and then I'm going to hand back to Charlie so that we can get back to.
We can talk about it. Let's do
Okay.
this. We're taking a break. Intermission.
Okay, we're in an intermission.
Welcome to the Lost Colony Intermission.
Good. I need structure, and now
Sponsored
that I know,
by the Lost Colony.
now that I know there's a place for it, then the reason why I think partly is because it's not as romantic to say, well, we know what happened to them. They integrated with local indigenous people and survived.
The found colony doesn't have as good of a ring to it.
Yeah, right. The never actually all that lost colony is. It looks terrible on a sign,
The
and
misplaced colony.
it's harder to write a play about. But like the Lumbee Nation has been telling everybody for 250 years. By the way, we're the lost colony. So I think it's partly that. I think it's also partly people did not want to listen to the Native American people telling them what happened to the lost colony. And I think it's partly that a lot of people wanted to sell a lot of books. Is that
I agree.
intermission over?
What he said. All right. So Raleigh legends. I feel like every town in America has a crybaby bridge,
Oh, yeah, totally. I grew up in Asheville.
but Raleigh has a crybaby lane.
Oh.
It's a whole lane.
Is it like one lane on I-40 or
Not that kind of lane.
what if it were, it would be right through the middle of RTP, I guarantee.
So this one was actually on my little scratch pad of what we now refer to as the bucket of ideas. This has been on my scratch pad since we started this show.
Yeah.
And we have had people ask for it. And I am sorry that it took us, we're going into year 3.
Yeah.
For those of you on the recording that have asked for this, we're doing Crybaby Lane. It is a creepy little stretch of land off Western Boulevard. It has a very sad story attached to it.
Okay.
The story goes that in the early 1900s, there was a Catholic orphanage built on the location. And it functioned as an orphanage does, as you would imagine. You know, the residents got a basic education, vocational skills, occasional field trips and outings into the community. You know, pretty basic boilerplate orphanage stuff. And since it was a Catholic home, some of the older boys that lived there had the option to study for the priesthood, and they would be moved to a separate dorm as older children.
Okay.
Right. And that would be like their spot. Like they're working on something different. Y'all live over here. Y'all live over there, whatever.
Yeah.
Different educational tracks. All in all, by all accounts, the orphanage was said to do pretty well. You know, you don't think of an orphanage as a particularly like sunshine and rainbows kind of place, but this one was said to be a decent one. And the kids were better off than they would be in the streets. But one night in 1958, a fire broke out in the general dormitory, and it spread quickly. And the majority of the kids died from the fire and smoke inhalation.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. By the time the fire department had arrived, the building was a total loss. In the aftermath, the church sold off the land. They didn't want to rebuild there.
And this, are we in the legend part or in the
Yes,
history part?
we're in the legend part. And the older kids were transferred elsewhere, like sent off to seminary.
Oh, okay.
And they basically just were like, we don't want to, like, this was horrible. This was tragic. We're done. And they moved on. And after the site was cleaned up, because it is surrounded by homes, it was like part of a neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Neighbors began reporting hearing the sounds of cries of children in the night.
Oh.
And occasionally the smell of smoke.
Ugh.
A lot of folks wrote this off as psychological trauma and like PTSD type stuff.
If the house next door to me burned down and a whole bunch of kids died in it, I'd probably have nightmares too.
Right. So that's initially what it got written off as. But over time, the neighborhood is emptied.
Okay.
And people haven't moved back. People basically just like moved on. You know how sometimes you see like a row of old houses and they're just kind of like falling down?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that.
So it's basically an abandoned neighborhood.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yes. But here's where it gets really creepy. If you go out there and you stand in the field, kick around in the grass, you can find the cornerstone of the old orphanage.
That's not... I like spooky places. I don't want to go to that spooky place.
Well, supposedly, if you go there, if you're there in the middle of the night and you stand there loud enough, you'll hear crying children.
Ugh. Okay.
And smell smoke like the neighbors have reported. So super creepy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to pronounce this street, the cross street. It's near, do you know how to say that? Bilyeau Street? Bilyeau?
I would guess it's Bilyeau.
Bilyeau. It's Western Boulevard near Bilyeau. If you want to go there, it's not a lot there. It's a field.
And a cornerstone.
But, so the history. And this is one, again, that has come up several times when discussing Raleigh. It's also reminiscent of Cry Baby Bridge legends, which, again, they're so prevalent. They like have their own niche in American folklore. So what's up with that field? Let's get into it.
All right.
Get in on it. Get it on you. Roll around in the field. Journey with me. Through the mists of time. There was indeed a Catholic orphanage in Raleigh for a good portion of the 20th century.
Okay.
It was part of a Catholic community known as Nazareth. It was founded in 1899 by Father Frederick Price.
Oh, okay.
Fun fact, Price was the first native-born North Carolinian to be ordained as a Catholic priest.
Really?
Yep. Took
right.
till 1899.
Wow.
Yep. The site was 4 miles outside of what were then the Raleigh city limits, stretching along a good chunk of Western Boulevard. So it was like a whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right. And the orphanage at Nazareth did burn down 3 times.
3 times? Oh, my God.
In 1905, in 1912, and again in 1961.
These people need some Smokey the Bear action.
So did any of these fires occur in a way similar to the story? All the versions of the Crybaby Lane story that I can find online and, through word of mouth, all have stuff in the late 50s or specifically 1958.
Okay.
So going with that, none of the dates of recorded fires match that exactly. And through old newspapers and fire department records, thank you, Raleigh Fire Department, they don't have anything there for 1958.
Okay.
But for the sake of discussion and understanding how oral tradition can, details get muddy, right? It's like the game of telephone.
Yeah, and like people are going to say my mom or my dad told me about something that happened when they were a kid.
My uncle works at Nintendo.
Yeah, exactly. My uncle is a barbecue sauce magnate, and that's going to continually sort of kick the date forward or backwards in time. That's how folklore works.
All right, so I'm still willing to accept 1960 as a starting point, right? Let's work back. So 1961 was the last fire. That fire, we even know who started it. It was started accidentally by a priest named Raymond J. Donahue. Father Donahue saw a wasp nest.
I now deeply sympathize with Father Donahue. I don't know. I think kill it with fire might be a perfectly reasonable reaction.
And that's what he did.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
He was like, I'm going to burn down that wasp nest. And that escalated quickly. And he burned down a whole house.
Oh.
But here's the rub. Nobody got hurt.
Oh.
It was his own house. It was the rectory. He burnt down the rectory.
Oh, my God.
So I was waiting for you to be like, boo, like you did on the last one. No, this is a yay.
No, this is a yay. This is a yay.
So he burned down his old house, and it happened in the middle of the day, and everyone escaped without harm. There was one injury. Fireman hurt his back while running a hose to the nearest hydrant, which to me sounds like, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. My back.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you got to wonder.
So kind of a funny story. Certainly not a tragic one.
My father actually did this one time.
Burned down his house.
No, he burned down that guy's house. No.
Your dad is Father Donahue?
No, but when he was like in his 70s, my father decided to get rid of a wasp nest attached to part of the barn by taking a can of old paint, like an old spray paint can, and a lighter, and trying to turn it into a flamethrower in his own backyard to take out the wasp nest. And this apparently involved several of my family members standing around screaming at him while like fighting over who got to use the water hose.
So, brief aside.
Yeah. I grew up in the country.
You can buy flamethrowers on Amazon, and it's awesome, and they're only like $30.
What?
Yes. So you can get. It's got like the end of it's like this, like a cup looking thing, except it's like hollow there, right?
Yeah.
And it's on a metal stick, and it's got a button, and it's got like a hose that you can connect to. A propane tank. Thank you. Like a real propane tank.
What? There is no way that's legal.
It is one of my favorite pandemic shopping therapy purchases.
Oh my God.
I definitely bought that when we were all on lockdown, sitting around, buying too much crap on the internet. Somebody told me about that we're like, instead of going out there and pulling weeds, you can burn them. And I was like, I could. And I did.
All right.
And I still have it. And it melts ice. It does anything you need fire to do.
Too bad that there wasn't a wasp's nest around.
So anyway, please do not. This is not an endorsement of using aerosol cans and lighters to start fires or Amazon flamethrowers.
Oh my God. $30 on Amazon. I just need time to let my reality.
You need time to get one is what you need.
Okay. Fair enough. Go ahead.
Every house should have one. Anyway, so the 1912 fire, again, there was 3. The 1912 fire has pretty sparse details, but a dorm did burn down and a schoolroom.
Do you need HUI? Do you need HUI?
Oh, no.
That's all good. Don't worry, folks. We do not need HDMI.
Thank you, though.
We do appreciate you checking in. Where was I? 1912 fire.
1912 fire. Yeah.
It did burn down a schoolroom, some stables, and a barn, and kicked off a wildfire in the nearby field.
Oh, my God.
But no one was injured.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unlike the 1905 one. I feel like we're far back in time enough that I can say it with that voice and it's not as tragic, right?
Yeah, the odds are pretty low that anybody who was there is listening.
Yeah. So, per the News and Observer, at around 2 a.m. on October 29th, 1905, what was known as the Priest's Building had a fire break out in the kitchen, which was on the first floor, trapping 5 young men on the upper stories of the building.
Ugh.
One of these young men, who the News and Observers describe as a bohemian.
What?
And they spelled his name wrong.
I really need more detail on what a bohemian means.
It's the National Bohemian guy. He's got the one eye. I don't know. He's got the little suit.
That's like 50 years ahead of
the nice hat.
Okay. Yeah.
Or he doesn't have a hat. I don't know. The nice some of the old ads he had a hat. Whatever. That is a different podcast. We don't know if his name was John Gladish or John Glavish because in the same 500-word article, they spell it both ways.
Editing was not a very evolved science in 1905.
No. Apparently, he was the hero of the day, though. This young man helped his fellow students onto the roof and then gave them the courage to jump off.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I mean, the building's on fire. Yeah. Pick your poison.
So the thing is, when it came time for Mr. Bohemian himself to make the leap, he was not as athletic as the other young men.
Oh.
He did not land well, and he died.
Maybe. Oh. I was about to make a joke at his expense, but I won't now.
So here's the thing: none of those fires match the story. It's an awesome story. I've been to the field. It's a field. But here's the kicker. The Nazareth community ends a mile west of what we now call Crybaby Lane. So the field that I went to was not Crybaby Lane. It's not actually where. So like the location that ghost tours and stuff will take you to if you pay them to take you to Crybaby Lane. Yeah. That's not where the orphanage was.
So they're taking you to a totally different
They're just
place.
taking you to a field. Here's a field. At its largest, the Catholic community at Nazareth occupied several hundred acres. But as Raleigh began to expand, the church sold off and donated pieces of property. A large chunk was granted in 1962 to build a new facility for what later became Cardinal Gibbons High School.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Or the building that didn't burn down in the 3 fires at the orphanage.
Yeah.
Stayed in use until 1975. And that building was on Nazareth Street off of Avon Ferry Road, about a mile west of Crybaby Lane.
So, like, nowhere near where the place is that people think this was.
No, and shame on the ghost tours that will take your money and drive you out to that field, because they exist. You can find it.
Yeah.
You can find them. Just a quick Google search for Raleigh ghost tours, and you'll find people that'll take you out there and be like, "Where's Crybaby Lane?" I'm sorry if that offended you. Have a good day. They're like, "That's our ghost tour." It's on to us.
The question being, was there a cornerstone in that field?
I didn't find one. Yeah.
It is kind of atrocious that they'll charge somebody money and take them out there. And it's also hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of emblematic of the whole deal. I don't know.
It is. I do want to take a moment to shout out to NC Ghosts, which is amazing website. Does great research into folklore out of the Carolinas.
Then I'll make sure to put a link into it.
Okay,
Because I don't remember what
great
it's called
website.
right now, but it's a phenomenally good website.
Yes.
And he's a fascinating person to talk to.
Yeah. So yeah, there's 3 Raleigh ghost stories, 3 places you can go this weekend while you're here. We are going to take a 5-minute break. There's swag bags in the back on that chair. If you have any questions for us, we'll answer questions. I guess we can just do the questions now, right?
Yeah, do questions.
Yeah, we'll do the questions now. We don't need to take a break. Does anybody have any questions? Again, no is an acceptable answer. We can talk about stuff besides ghosts.
Yeah.
At this point, someone in the audience asks, what is the most outlandish or unbelievable legend or report we've encountered in the course of making the show?
Can I share one?
Yeah, go for it, please.
So one sticks out from when we first started. There's a story out of Eastern North Carolina that Satan himself, the devil, he came and dragged a guy named Hezekiah Jones out of his house.
And in the legend, 2 people who are like his caretakers witness the devil like stomp in and grab him. And
He's like, come on, get in. We're going.
he pulls up in his big red Elvira car and he says,
he's
"Get
like,
in, loser, we're going to hell."
Get in, loser.
Exactly.
So I was just like, oh, that's a really cool story. I liked reading the story. I was like, there's no way there's even a kernel of truth in this, except that I found the dude, and the dude really existed. Like, we were able to trace genealogical records to the geographic location of where the legend took place. And I was like, oh, this guy did live here. Oh, this guy didn't have a great reputation. I'm like, oh, it's a parable. So basically, the family probably concocted this story, or somebody concocted this story. And it was, a silly, fun story that I didn't expect there to be any bit of historical information in. But we were able to find out like who the guy was, where he lived, what his job was, like how he was as a person. Like, that was really neat. What's one that was completely full of crap to actually answer his question?
The guy on Purgatory Mountain, the hunter.
No, that was real.
Well, yeah, but not the version with the Amish.
Not the Amish, the Quakers.
The Quakers. So there's a legend about a ghost on Purgatory Mountain, which is in the Uwharrie National Forest. It's over by the State Zoo. And the legend is that a bunch of Quakers who had been rounded up by this opportunistic, horrible person and were about to be pressed into service in the Confederate Army teamed up and killed the guy, and that now his ghost like haunts the place where they chased him through the woods. It turns out that there is some fact there.
Like the bad guy in that story existed.
Oh, the bad guy really existed and was a really horrible person and did really horrible things.
And did press people into service. He was part of the Home Guard.
And did get murdered.
Yeah.
And we even know like where he got murdered and where they buried the body and everything. If you picture like the dude off of the Quaker Oats can, like 30 of that dude chasing some horrible villain through the woods and like tracking him down and killing him. That part didn't happen, but it's a very evocative image.
It's the best way to start your day. Get back here.
Right?
Complex carbohydrates. They'll digest slower. You'll have more energy.
We're here to end your cholesterol problems forever. So, yeah, I don't know. That one was really fun.
I know the one that was completely full of crap.
Please.
The Vampires of Dillsboro.
Oh, the Vampires of Dillsboro, yes.
There is a fantastically fun legend about a vampire clan living in Dillsboro, North Carolina.
Which we're way up in the mountains.
I went there.
Way up.
I spent a long weekend in Dillsboro taking in the local sights and sounds.
And it's like a super
awesome.
nice place now.
I had a great time. There's a lot of awesome, like other things that, not awesome things. There's a lot of terrible things that happen there that make for awesome stories. But there's not vampires. We were able to track that to a fan fiction blog as the origin of the story from like 2011 was the first occurrence of any of the names or locations being said. What county is that in? Jackson County Genealogical Society is amazing. They are some of the most helpful people and best record keepers. And we walked through land records and family trees and all that. And it's completely made up. Like there's not even people to tie to the vampire legend. Like a good example of
there weren't people in the place where it's supposed to have
yeah, they're like, and it happened at this time. And I'm like, nobody lived there then. Hey, Pete from Nerds Adulting, everybody.
Hey.
Say hi to Pete. Nerds Adulting is an excellent podcast that we've been guests on. If you like this kind of witty banter, I think I'm witty. Check us out on Nerds Adulting, where we talk about the Goonies.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the most full of crap story that I ever came across was the Dillsboro vampires.
A fun detail from the Vampire Beast of Bladenboro, which like a real phenomenon happened, and I don't know what it was, and neither does anybody else. But at the time that it was happening, the mayor of the town also owned the one movie theater in town, and he like got a movie about a giant cat attacking a town and showed it in town to like take advantage of this, to just like make a bunch of money off of people in town while he was also telling everybody there's nothing happening. It was really very the mayor from Jaws kind of stuff. Only except imagine the mayor from Jaws also owning a movie theater and deciding to show Shark Week.
So, awesome transition.
Yeah.
If you want to do it. I have notes here for a story from Bladenboro. That was actually good. That was not planned. And that was our time filler for the second half was a story from Bladenboro.
Well, there we go. Lovely.
Before we get to that, does anybody else want to talk about some stuff? This is meant to be interactive.
At this point, someone in the audience asked if we had ever encountered any stories of or knew about any doomsday cults or anything like that in the Carolinas that we had considered covering on the show.
I'll let Michael handle that.
So there is a current cult that exists in a part of North Carolina that is not too far from where I grew up. And I am scared of those people, and we have elected not to do a show about it. But I have in sick fascination because who needs to sleep? I have read a lot about them, enough about them to decide that I don't want to talk about them on the show because I'm scared that they'll come for me. They are bad, bad people. You know, like they own a town, basically, and like induct the local elected officials and get them to be on their side and protect them from prosecution from the people who get away from them. It is horrifying. Imagine if Jonestown had an elected government that was recognized by the state, and that's what we're talking about in a very remote town in Western North Carolina.
But if you find another one, we'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, if you find one that I'm convinced won't come looking for me. Oh, okay. 17th century doomsday cult I'm into. So you should talk to us about that. Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's do a story from Bladenboro. What time is it? We got time.
Yeah, we have another hour in here.
They gave us so much time.
We were like, okay, we'll do 2 episodes. Why not?
We can talk. You've been listening to Arcane Carolinas. Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, give us a rating, leave a comment. If you didn't like it, send us an email and tell us why. If you're not wrong, we'll try to fix it.
And if you're interested in award-winning speculative fiction, including science fiction, urban fantasy, and horror, find me, Michael G. Williams, at www.michaelgwilliamsbooks.com and check out Falstaff Books at falstaffbooks.com.
If you'd like to pick up some Arcane Carolinas merch, look at behind-the-scenes info, pictures, videos, stuff like that, all the things that get cut, check out arcanecarolinas.com, where you can get access to our Patreon, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, all that in one place, including the merch store. Buy a shirt.
Clothe your body.
Drape your body in our wares.
Be our living billboards.